so we just went over the bandsaw. That blade is always heading downward, so you don't have to put any pressure on top, right, to hold it down. This one, we'll do it in slow motion. This one you can see goes up and down. So you do have to put a little bit of pressure on the top. One other difference you notice is what? It's really small. Yeah, the blade's really tiny, which is great because it allows you to do really tight turns. However, especially with new students and new users of the scroll saw, it tends to heat up because you put a lot of pressure on it, more pressure than you need to when you're learning how to use it. And so the blades don't last all that long and they break. But when they break in the middle. So the top part is held and the bottom part's held and it breaks in the middle. Nothing flies out at you. You're not going to get hurt. However, all this tension that you hear, when you break it, it's going to loosen. It's going to be kind of loud. It might startle you, but no big deal. All you do is shut the saw back off. Everyone in the room is going to know that you broke a blade. No big deal. We have hundreds of blades. That's why I have so many blades on hand, because it happens all the time. Just shut it off and we'll change the blade and you'll be on your way again. And eventually, hopefully you guys will all learn how to change a blade. If you use this a lot, you want to know how to do that. This has a variable speed, slow and fast, and anything in between. You want to use this at full speed most of the time. Most of the time you're cutting 3/4 inch stuff. When it's at full speed, it's basically sanding your piece as you cut. So the edge isn't going to look like it did on the bandsaw. The bandsaw had a really rough edge. When we make a cut on this, I'll show you in a second, it's going to be nice and smooth, almost like you sanded it already. There may be some occasions if you're cutting something really thin and you can't really control it because it's going so fast, you can turn it down. Maybe you can manage it better, but you want it to be on full speed. I'll put it back on slow speed so you can see this. If you don't hold your board down to the table, this is what it looks like. If you put a little pressure on the top, it will cut. Now I'm going to turn it up so you can see it in full motion. If you're here and you're not putting enough pressure on the top, this is what it's going to sound like. Really annoying, right? And I'm standing on the side of this right now. When you use this, you're going to be in the front, but I just want you to be able to see it. When you make a cut, you're going to put a little bit of pressure on the top, and it's going to be quiet. I'll just make a little cut. And when I come out of a cut, I usually come out of the cut slowly. Don't come out at full speed. Slow down. The faster that you push in, the more you have to hold down. So if you put less pressure in, your hold down will be less. You don't have to strain and hold the thing down. It should be a kind of a relaxing thing to do, really. So if you look at the edge of this piece that just got cut, it's already smooth. And this blade's actually getting a little bit old. This is a dust blower, so when you're doing this, you kind of want to direct this onto your line so that it blows the dust off and you can always see your line. There's a little bellow down here. As the thing goes up and down, it pumps the bellow. If you come in, I'm going to loosen this tension right back here. If you come in and you turn it on, and it sounds like this, that's a telltale sign that the tension is wrong. So you can shut it off and tighten it. It should be nice and quiet. If it's not nice and quiet, then there's something up. Of course, anytime you're using this, you're going to have safety glasses on. One other thing. You can do internal cuts on a scroll saw. So on the bandsaw, you can't do it, but on a scroll saw, you can make internal cuts that don't have any lines leading up to it. The way you do something like this was a nightlight that I made back in college. Had a little bulb that went in there, and they had different panels that would slide in. All I would do is draw out whatever it is, a clown in this case, and then you drill a little tiny hole in all these spaces. Then you loosen the tension on the blade, you take the blade out, put it up through one of the holes, reattach it, cut out that one little spot, take it back out, put it through the next one, through the next one. So it took a long time to make all these blade changes, but you get really good at changing the blade. So I sold these for $5 and it took kind of a long time. So what I did instead is I would take a piece of 3/4 inch that was that big. I would draw the clown on it and I would cut it out of a piece of 3/4. And then I would do what I told you on the bandsaw. I would resaw it into 3 pieces. Right now I get 3 and now I'm making $15 every time I make one. For fun, for your first time on the scroll saw, what you're going to do, in honor of any Labor Day parade that may have happened, this is the parade route. That's the road. This is going to be the parade float, the blade. You have to drive the parade float down the road. All these circles that are here, those are the people waiting for you to go by. So you have to try and drive the blade, the parade float, down the road and avoid all the people. Try not to kill anybody. Couple of tips. The blade is only going to cut in the front. Sometimes I have kids that think by pushing on the side, you're going to get a cut. You're not going to cut on the side at all. So you have to start so that that line is right in front of the blade. And when you get to a point where it turns, you have to turn the block so that it stays in front of the blade. Second, the slower you go, the more accurate you'll probably be, especially as a beginner. Third, I see kids that are going along and they start going off the line and they're like, oh my God, and they keep going. Once you start going off the line, just stop, back it up, turn a little more and get back on the line. This first time, it's like you can't play the piano when you sit down. The first time you're going to make a few mistakes, and the second time you might get a little more fluid and you'll be able to turn and push all at the same time. But at the beginning, you might want to just get to the corner, stop, turn, get to the next corner, stop, turn, until you get a good feel for it. Just like the bandsaw, use a little common sense. Obviously, you don't run your fingers into the blade. I think that this is the safest cutting tool there is in the shop. I would let a kindergartner use this. The worst thing you're gonna do on this is you accidentally touch the blade, it's gonna be like a little paper cut. It hardly ever happens. So you're gonna go right here. You're gonna be right in front. You're not gonna stand off to the side. I was only demonstrating kind of from the side so you could see. You wanna be right in front. That'll make it easier. Maybe you can back up. Yeah, there you go. And give it a turn over here. Nice and slow. That's better. You're doing good now. With the more experience, it shouldn't hurt your hands. You're probably pushing down harder than you need to. You weren't pushing really hard into the blade. You were going at a good pace. That is pretty good. And it's a very complicated one. Nice job call.